Oh, hello there. I was just jamming out to the intro music. Welcome to episode 54 of Coffee with Den, casual conversations with your average Joe. How
Can,
you doing,
can
John?
my name is John.
Casual conversations with your average John. Yeah.
There, that's it. There's no Joes in this show, unless I am's real name is actually Joe. Then that'd be weird.
Well, we do have a
Um,
Joe that keeps threatening to come on. He's the CEO of
oh yeah,
Dragon Chain. He's in a different time zone though. It's an hour. It's 1 hour more difficult for him to
Eh,
come on. So.
I like it's. Yeah, it's fun. And can you hear me when the music's playing?
So I can't hear you that's a good question. So when we roll the beginning
Yeah,
of this, there's the little splash screen. I don't know what else to call it with the Den logo and the flames.
the
I can
intro.
yeah, well, no, not the coffee intro video, but
Yeah.
just the intro splash screen before that. I can hear you during that for sure, yeah. And so can the
Okay,
world if they're like on the edge of their seat waiting to hear what we talk about this morning. But then
gotcha.
once the intro rolls, no, it's muted. So all of your conversations about how you, well, I won't say what you were talking about. That was private. Those didn't come through. It's fine.
I just thought it was funny because you were like, "Oh, I was jamming out to the song." And I was actually like making Dakota watch the intro, and
Mm-hmm.
then she can't hear it because I have the headphones in. So I was singing the song out loud to her,
Oh,
but that song's kind of hard to sing a
you were
cappella.
relaying it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Doodly 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 doo. That's
that's
kind of it, right?
basically what it sounded like while she watched the intro. She's like, "All right, that happened.
Cool. You spilled
Thank you."
coffee. Wonderful. Great. So, oh man, episode 54. We weren't here last week. David and I were seeing a friend of ours off, but we're back today, and I think David will be around once he gets done with some repairs that he's doing in his shop this morning.
Yeah, he's got to fix my laptop for me.
I think he did that. Did he do that?
This is another one.
Oh,
So my like workhorse laptop that like the only computer I have in New York, which isn't in New York right now, that can do all the video editing and stuff that I want it to do. Because I don't really want to do any video editing on a MacBook Air. Uh,
I can see that.
I yeah, it the fan broke the week I was going to start doing all my stuff. The fan broke on my laptop. Like my hand overheats when I have my hand on the keyboard. Like so I sent it to so he's repairing it right now. And Dakota left on Sunday, and the part he needed to replace the fan, which is just the fan, got it on Monday.
Well,
So
he's got it. He's got it
yeah,
now.
so yeah, it's gonna be however long it takes him to fix it plus shipping before I can start editing again. Just as soon as I was ready to start shooting, the laptop breaks or the computer breaks. Oh well.
Well, that's all right. We'll see it soon enough. John's working on a pilot of a thing that I won't disclose, but it should be cool. It'll be on Den um,
Yeah.
once he gets his fan replaced and things like that. I'm excited about that because you're funnier than I am, so it should be good.
I like how you're like once he gets his fan replaced. It's like I have one fan out there in the world, and
Yeah,
he,
once he gets his
he
fan
is
replaced.
slacking. He is slacking. He is not promoting me enough. So as soon as they replace that one person who's a fan,
Oh, it took me, John. John, I'm not gonna lie. It's Wednesday morning, and it took me until the very end, whenever you explained the joke, for me to get it. But it was a good one. Points for that. I'll send you some matter for that
aren't you
joke.
glad I explained the joke there at the end?
Yeah.
Everybody knows.
So today is episode 54, and we didn't do one last week, and some interesting stuff happened that I wanted to talk about. We don't have to like get weird about it because it's related to politics, but there's some interesting questions that have come up, and I think the questions are more important than the answers. And so, if we come up with more questions than answers, that's fine. What is that noise? Okay, it's gone. I think your fan's broken again, my friend.
No, I'm playing with a piece of plastic.
Oh, okay. It's the bearings on your fan, is what it is.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it actually has nothing to do with Studio 54, which is what's on screen here. It's just a logo that I thought of when I typed in the number 54 and put it up here.
So,
But
so
that
that
was a
sounds
thing for a while in like the 70s.
so that sounds like a logo that the internet thought of when you typed in 54.
No, it popped in my head and I went to DuckDuckGo and I searched for Studio 54 logo
Ah,
and then
okay,
I got
cool.
it. Yeah. So that's how that happened. Do you know about Studio 54? The
Yeah,
legacy of Studio 54?
yeah. It's just a place that a lot of people do cocaine at.
Lot of cocaine and other things, yeah. And the things that you typically do when you're on cocaine, I guess. That makes sense. So anyway, there's our report on 54. Um, what I wanted to know, John, is have you heard about the Twitter files? You heard about
Is it
that?
like are they rebooting the X Files?
I think so. I think it is. It's creepy and weird. So sure. No, it's
You
not a
have to.
reboot of the X Files. It's basically internal documentation from Twitter that Elon decided to disclose so that everybody who was speculating about what actually happened whenever Hunter Biden's laptop was uh, abandoned, recovered, and then reported on by the New York Post. There's a lot of speculation about what happened around that time and why it happened and who made it happen and things like that. So he went ahead and decided to disclose everything he could on Twitter's end. There was a lot of organizations involved, but Twitter was one of them. And so that's what the Twitter files are. It's a drop of info. There's more to come, apparently. And we get a little bit of an inside peek into how censorship works in the U.S., which I thought was an interesting thing to talk about. So I wrote up over on Den. I made a bad joke, which I do sometimes. So I called it BLM, which stands for Biden Laptop Mega Post. I mostly did that because people are weird about the acronym BLM, and so I decided to make a joke about it. I gave it a little bit of an intro, and if you're not familiar with what happened, that should serve as a decent little intro. I tried to stay pretty neutral about it. And then towards the end, I just went in and captured. It was really a weird way to dump it all. It came out in a series of tweets through a third party. So I went through and captured each of the tweets in Dragon Chains Eternal, which if I click on this one, it should pop up here. So that way, you can prove that nothing changed or nothing was faked after it was captured here. And then just copy them over into the politics layer, see what people thought about it. So if you wanted to read them without having to go to Twitter and find each individual tweet, you can just go to the politics layer over on Den, and they're all lined up nice and neat for you. Some of them have some formatting errors, but mostly it's lined up all nice and neat. To summarize it, basically what happened was Hunter Biden took a laptop of his to a repair shop and just left it there. Never went back for it. And then at some point that got to the Post, and a copy of the hard drive got to the New York Post, and they looked at it and said, damn, there's some weird shit in here that maybe people should know about. And they posted, they posted the post, and they published a story about it. And when they did that, it was blacked out across media and social media and stuff. And that's where the real question kind of is. I'm less concerned about what was on the laptop for today's conversation anyway. And I just wanted to talk about, like, who should be the ones doing censorship in the US and who should not be. Because as it turns out, there were a lot of government officials and politicians who were directing the censorship on Twitter. And so we have found out that there's a pretty cozy relationship with, specifically in this case, with the DNC, to the point where they were like, no, don't run that. And then Twitter listened, I guess, and didn't run that. And then it kind of got turned into a raging wildfire. And I don't know, I've seen a few conversations, mostly on the internet, that were mostly like emotional or moving the goalposts and saying none of it matters or all of it matters. And I was just wondering, what you think about it. What do you think about not being allowed to talk about, like, there was for a while there, you couldn't even ask if it was real or not. And even the White House press secretary's Twitter account got turned off for mentioning the story that the Post published. So I don't know. It's one of those weird recent history things, recent event things that I don't know, that people are talking about. So we can have some coffee and we can talk about it.
So I think if the reason, I think first of all, probably what happened is that people in like federal agencies got scared of, oh, there's a laptop but we don't know what's on it. Like that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably why they were like, hey, you're not allowed to mention it or talk about it or say anything about it until we can figure out what's on it and what's going on with it.
I can see that.
Would
I
be
can see
my
that being,
guess,
yeah.
because that's the first place I would start. And like, if you think about any federal investigation into fucking think about Trump, Epstein, any of those things, they did the same thing. They said, hey, we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to post anything. We're not going to like media dump all the shit we found until we know it's okay to dump it. Um, and even then, like FBI agencies are kind of like, we don't take credit, we take blame. You know, like um, so just something to think about. That's how I think about it in the
Mm-hmm.
timeline. I also don't know what's on it. Haven't read any of this. Um, and haven't even read your post. I just saw it got like 60K
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
energy. I
Which
was
was
like, hell
great.
yeah, dude.
I got a nice
Yeah,
little payout for that. Yeah. What did I get? I got 53,000 energy
yeah,
on that. So heck yeah.
yeah. It was awesome. So like somebody I guess upvoted as spam. That's weird. Oh,
No, yeah. Well, it's red, which means it was, somebody did tag it as spam, but if
that's
it's
what I
red,
mean.
yeah, if it's red, that means a number of people said, no, 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 that tag's incorrect. So it's not spam.
That's that's what I mean. Is like somebody
Yeah.
went
Yeah.
through and tagged as spam.
Yeah,
Anyway,
spam. Which is funny because that's how it was, that's how it was initially received. It was like, oh, that's spam. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Well, not initially. So initially there was no, nobody can talk about it. And then once it was once that didn't work, there was sort of this washing of like, oh, it doesn't matter and it's nonsense and it's just Russian propaganda, is the story that everybody sort of ran with. And that was directed by like DHS, and somebody from the CIA told the media like, this reeks of Russian propaganda, and maybe they thought it did and it was wrong. Like that's not as,
so
and then also what's on the laptop is not really as important for this conversation specifically as just the question of like, is that appropriate for government agencies to direct what the citizens are allowed to talk about? You know, that
so
kind of thing.
there is like that's hard because there is like little there's 100% like things that like we shouldn't be sharing. Um, when like um put it this way, like I mean, you were in the military, like, and you were in um, certain parts of it.
I hear them right now. They're coming. They're coming to get you because they hear you
Hey,
talking about
one sec.
it. John's got to call the cops off.
Yeah, we kind of live by the water, and sirens will sometimes come by. But what was I saying? Oh, so like even like codes and stuff that you crack now or that you cracked
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago, you won't like government agencies won't say how even that they cracked, even if it was like 50 years ago and stuff like that. Even though
Yeah,
like time has passed, things have passed, like they won't share that information because you don't know what else could be compromised and why help out other people. So
yeah. There's definitely a case for secrecy in government for sure. Like I used to work inside of a lot of it. I was
yeah,
a Tomahawk cruise missile guy, and a lot of that dealt with specifically like, yeah, you don't want to advertise, for example, uh, what targets you're planning on hitting before you hit them,
Well,
because
those
then
are
they won't be there anymore. That's
well,
that's that's one like objective example of a secret. You know what I mean?
those
That's
those are obvious. But
yeah, right.
I mean like even like old stuff. Like you don't want to share even those information, even that because you don't know what else it could link together and stuff like that. Um, I think also with this particularly, it was only censored on Twitter. So there's like the Wall Street Journal is also not like a small journal. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not like it's not like this is
No.
neurologist RS journal. It's there's a pretty big reader base, and I think if there was merit and pertinent information that needed to get out, it would get out. There's also like I guess Twitter censoring. Like there's still Facebook, Instagram. There's word of mouth. Like if something is big enough, people are going to find out.
Well,
Um,
yes, and that's why eventually it did get out to the point where it wasn't censored anymore. Like right now, there's I don't know if it's Wall Street Journal or if it's I think the Post, the Washington Post, published
yeah,
something more recently about it. So recently, it has been getting some coverage in the media, but that's only after it was blacked out from the media, and not just on Twitter. It was also censored on Facebook, and it was also, um, and this is where like I don't know if it was censorship or if it was just misinformation, but across the media, it was dismissed as fake news, right?
yeah.
That kind of thing. And so, like for example, one of my neighbors that I talk to every now and then, I was asking him what he thought about it, and he, until recently, he was very convinced that it was all just Russian propaganda. It was all just fake Russian news, kind of thing, because that's what the TV told him.
What was fake about it? Sorry,
Oh, so
like there literally wasn't a
that there
laptop.
was no laptop, basically, right?
Okay,
That it was either no laptop or that it was Russian hacking operations that got into Hunter's laptop and then released the info, which is actually what Twitter's initial policy claim was they were running with this is hacked material, and so we have a policy against hacked material, and so that's why we're shutting it down. That was an argument that later didn't hold water because it ended up not being the case. Um, and the interesting thing is that like nobody at Twitter except the employees themselves directed that. In other words, the employees at Twitter had direct communications with the politicians and with the DNC that was telling them, "Hey, turn this off," and they just did. It wasn't like a Twitter as a company thing. It was sort of freelance by the employees, where they just went nuts on it to where they used, for example, they were using tools that were previously just reserved for really, really bad shit, like child pornography or things like that, to censor it in people's private messages in their DMs. So you weren't even allowed to like send a DM to talk about it, that kind of thing. And so it's interesting because there's an aspect of there was involvement from a central government to to uh, to not run the story, but there was also this sort of decentralized community employee effort that pulled the trigger. You know, so and I guess this is the reason that I'm ultimately glad to see the actual emails and the actual data from Twitter come out, is because there's been a lot of speculation and a lot of like conspiracy theory and a lot of people were left to basically just come up with their own answers with no information. And so we can now at least see what exactly happened, and I think that's important because we can really get off the rails pretty easily if everyone's in the dark about it and they just speculate, like especially people that have extreme theories about things that aren't true. They might feel vindicated by being censored, right? Like,
well,
oh, I must be right because the government shut me down, that kind of thing.
well, people that have extreme theories about whatever are gonna already they're gonna find another way to morph it into whatever other extreme theory they have. It's easy enough to go, oh, it was actually a lot worse than what's being released. These are actually alter documents, like Elon trying to show, like him trying to help. Like there's ways to spin this into a different conspiracy theory. So I'm not worried or thinking about the people on the extremes because they're just always going to be in the extremes. The Tea Party is always going to want to burn it down, and the far left like socialists are going to get mad at you for smoking a cigarette because hurts the environment. Like there's no
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
there's no way to help anybody. But
Right.
it's like
Right.
those.
I can see what you're saying there. Yeah. There's
It,
this like middle 80% of people that
it's probably smaller
yeah.
than that, but
Maybe I'm
like,
optimistic, right?
well, like not, but like you can take like either hardcore Republicans or Democrats, and like no matter what you say, they're going to be like, oh, this or oh, that. Whether or not they're far left or far right, they're just going to
Yeah.
say, oh, this or that. So really, it's like that 20%, 30% of people that vote that change their minds, or
Yeah.
that like listen and respond to news with like a level head. Um, because like how many people go, oh, the media is just corrupt and um, you know what I mean? Like, oh, like it's fake news, false news, it's
Yeah.
propaganda, no matter what news source it's coming from. So if this is even coming from like Twitter, it's hard to be like, hey, this is true and honest and good stuff because it's coming from what
Yeah.
a bankrupt company now, like
Yeah,
uh,
the thing that you just said was full of lies and full of misinformation is now has a story that you like, so that one's true. Let's cherry
yeah,
pick that one, that kind of thing. You know what I run into a lot is like whenever I say something that is negative towards a particular political party, um, to somebody who is very attached to that political party, they'll assume that I am their enemy and that I must support the thing that they don't support. So, like, let's say
yeah,
in the with the Twitter thing, like if I call out, it's kind of fucked up for the DNC to direct, from the Biden team to direct what people are allowed to say and not say on the internet. That's kind of absurd, and that reeks of improper censorship to me personally. And they'll take that to mean that I wholeheartedly support Donald Trump and everything that MAGA believes in. And I'm like, that's not what I said at all. And I think that if either side of the political spectrum did this kind of shit, which they do, that they should be called out for it. Um, it's like you can't. It's as if you cannot. You can't call something the way you see it if it's for a certain political party, that kind of thing. And that's annoying to me, really, because it's hard to even talk about stuff that way.
so let's say I honestly don't even know what was found on this hard drive.
Yeah, and we
Um,
don't have to talk about that at all. That's fine.
well,
It was a
well,
bunch of potentially. The reasoning for that is that, like, okay, maybe it implicates the president, or maybe it implies that blackmailing the president's possible, which is dangerous, and that's a different conversation. It is the conversation where people run to whenever I just want to talk about censorship, but we
so
don't have to go there. We can, but that's not necessarily where we have to go with it. Yeah.
well, the reason why I brought that up was because censorship takes like a lot of different forms, right? So censorship could be like, I'm not letting you send this tweet, or I'm not letting this one thing that you want to be popular on my social media site. That's absolutely one form of censorship. Another form of censorship could be if you want to speak with me because I'm a senator, it's going to cost you $1 million.
Right.
That's another
Exactly.
form. So,
Yeah.
so saying that this happened, therefore it's a big deal. It's a big deal because honestly, it's what's taking traction, and funny enough, it's what's trending on Twitter, right?
Yep. Yep.
But if we wanted to go, hey, it cost $1 million for a VIP seat at a senator's inauguration, um, so that way he can run his fund his campaign or put that money in his pocket or
Yeah.
do whatever he wants, which is pretty fucked up, I would say.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucked up. This
Yep.
is an inauguration for you, but
Like
it's really
like
for the
like
people that voted for you. But you're
gatekeeping and crony capitalism and
yeah.
pay to play and choosing who gets to, like making sure the wrong people don't make money. Those are all forms of censorship.
So what my point is, if you're going to be mad at this, which I think you definitely have a right to be mad at this. If you're going to be mad at this, you have to be mad at the other stuff. You know, and you can't cherry pick which things rub you the wrong way, and then you also can't cherry pick being mad at what trends. Like, you know what? Like, censorship isn't a sexy topic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not. This is a sexy topic because it was Hunter Biden, which Trump was mad about, threw a lot of speculation out about, and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is censorship because it was Joe Biden running, for president.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
this is
Yeah.
not us being mad about censorship. This is the cool kid at school having a stupid brother or son, you know.
At
Whereas,
best, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
And
you have to look at all the other forms of things happening, and not just be mad when this happens to
I
the
think
opposition.
I think that I'm glad you went there with it, because I didn't say that I was going to roll this, but I'm going to roll it's a short clip from the current head of the SEC, so SEC Chair Gary Gensler, and he's teaching a class at MIT about cryptocurrency and blockchain, and he's teaching these entrepreneurs how to do business in the United States and how to basically be allowed to play with the big boys if they want to start a company that deals in the same industry that for example, the banks deal in, right? And so the spoiler is basically he explains that they're holding back innovation so they don't have to compete with it. And if you want to get around that, you probably have to bribe them with money or control of your company. And this is the guy that's leading the regulation push against the cryptocurrency industry. So I thought it was relevant and interesting because it is a form of censorship, like you said. So anyway, here's Gary Gensler. It's just a minute and a half. So let's watch this real quick. Play. Why is it not playing?
Did you upload it?
It's right there. I even tested it before the show. That's funny. Let me change it around here a little bit.
And by the way, just replacing one central monopolist with another central monopolist, a lot of commercial banks aren't terribly excited about that. Maybe you're going to have to give some ownership. Maybe you'll have to give 50% of your ownership to the 20 banks that are now, part of this. I mean, there are other ways to build incentive systems. Maybe you put a native token in there, and you give them the native token. So there may be other incentive ways to beat the current monopolist. But I, having been around commercial banks for a long time, they really are looking for ways to replace their aggregators in their back office, whether it's clearing, settlement, exchanges, credit agencies. But they are deeply understanding, because they are pretty ambitious and very good at making money as well. They deeply understand that every idea that's pitched to them is somebody who currently is small but wants to get big and gain market power. So they're also always thinking about how to ensure that there's a check to slow down your startup from gaining market power 5, 10, and 15 years from now. They don't want you to be the next clearinghouse like the Chicago Mercantile Exchange or Intercontinental Exchange. They don't want you to be the next central node of market power. So you might share some of that with them, or you might find an incentive system.
So I thought that was interesting. That was before he was SEC chair. but I thought it was interesting because it's describing what we're seeing today from the SEC, which is that small startups are being targeted, while big fraudulent things like FTX are able to cozy up and have meetings with these people that won't even meet with the smaller companies and that kind of thing. So before we get off on that, he doesn't know what we just talked about. So I'm going to bring Gravity Crab up. I think his AC is fixed now because he just popped in. What's up, David? We were just talking about censorship and the different forms that it comes in. One of which was gatekeeping access to industries, I guess. How you doing this morning? Oh, he's not doing well because he can't talk. Well, he'll troubleshoot for a minute. But anyway, John, that was what I heard there was they understand what's being done. They just want to own it. And so if you want to do the thing, you need to maybe give them control of it or give them something of substantial value that benefits them being the central monopolists, as he puts it, right? So that's definitely another form of censorship. And maybe I'm misunderstanding how he misinterpreting what he's saying there, but do you get a different message from what he said?
I mean, I think what he's saying is that if you want to do what I first of all, I it doesn't say what he's like specifically talking about. I guess he talks about like a native coin and stuff like that. But I mean, there's other in that he might be talking something more like what FTS was doing or whatever it is.
FTX, yeah.
FTX was doing, where it wasn't really it was more of a security than a cryptocurrency idea. So it could be out of context. I would love like a little bit more, like a couple more minutes in the front, just to like share up exactly what he's like, what the question was.
Yeah. So there was definitely a clip that was taken that I cut specifically out of a larger. So his whole MIT course is free on YouTube.
Cool.
And so that's where I found that. I was watching it, and he went off on that, and it was what was it about? I forget exactly, but it was a blockchain cryptocurrency class basically. So it was in the greater context of something else.
Okay.
But it's like a 2-hour lecture kind of thing.
We don't need to watch it all.
No, probably not.
Well, it kind of sounds like it's like this like I mean, one, he was like admitting that there's like a giant monopoly, which is kind of known now, which is not great. And that if you want to like if you want to play, you got to pay, which is pretty, which is like, there's a lot of regulation and things that those like companies have had to jump through in order to like be where they are, and they want to protect that. I get it. It's kind of like senators, they don't want to give up their seat or whatever else it is. It's kind of like, I think if you want to take them on, you have to realize what you're trying to take on. You're trying to take on a global market like conglomerate that has little to no reason to ever give up anything ever. And the fact that you want, like, nobody goes into this market thinking that they're going to be, I'm going to take 2% or whatever, which is still a lot of money, but like thinking that they're going to be a small person, right? Whenever you pitch or try to do anything, it's under the assumption that you're going to try to be bigger than you are. So I get how that's scary for the bigger companies.
And I think you're right. I think that a lot of people don't like to admit that that's the way that it is, because we sort of have this. We have one thing that I think Americans in general are very good at, like, pretending. Just in general, we got a lot of great actors here. Hollywood's huge. But just pretending in general that things are fine, or that things that aren't working the way they're supposed to work are just like not, we just kind of like, we won't talk about that. For example, that's not how the U.S. is supposed to run. You're not supposed to be able to control through bribery or what's the word? Lobbying or quid pro quo kind of techniques the free market capitalism that we're supposed to have here, right? And so, like, when there's a suggestion that the regulators are taking money from people who are saying, hey, this Ripple company over here, I think that that's going to be dangerous to compete with. They might take market share from us. I want you to go sue them officially as the SEC and cause them a bunch of trouble and make them spend $100 million on legal fees and destroy that company before they're ever able to. Let's nip this in the bud, as as Bradley Sherman said. Let's nip this thing in the bud, right? When you have people whose job depends on financing from this big central bank monopoly that Gary was talking about. Bradley Sherman's funding comes from these banks. And then he flies to DC and says, let's nip this thing in the bud. It's going to be a problem for my shareholders, I guess, for, lack of a better term. And that really is how things kind of work today. It's all sort of backroom under the table, and then presented as something that's different.
I don't know why I can't remember the name of it all of a sudden. But what was the Supreme Court ruling that, like, basically money is speech?
Citizens United.
There we go.
Yeah,
Citizens United.
I love that one. Bring
Which
back the hits. Yeah.
Which is the opposite of what money is speech is supposed to be. Citizens United is not.
Right.
Does not sound like what it is.
Yeah.
So basically, like, what you said was proven wrong because of that. Like, you're like, oh, you're not supposed to be able to do these things as a company. Well, you're wrong. Like, it's literally going, if we throw enough money at a thing and we work hard enough and not work hard enough, but we throw enough money or we exert our influence in certain ways, we can make things go away. And what you said was companies shouldn't be able to do that because this is a free market. Right? This is a free market. You shouldn't just be able to throw money at things and make them go away. Well, it's actually what happens is the opposite, because a free market needs regulation, or else we're not playing by fair and the same rules.
Yeah, I think that regulation West definitely has its place. Like, the regulation should definitely, like, here's my personal take on free market capitalism. There should be like common sense rules that everybody has to play by that limits what you can capitalize on, and it limits how free technically the market is. I think that should exist.
So, common sense is
making it a playing, okay. Maybe it isn't common sense. Let me qualify it a little bit better, I guess. I believe that whatever the ground rules are should be universal, that everybody should play by the same rules, that everybody should be required to adhere to the same legal structure, and that nobody should be above the law or in a higher class than other people. That's fundamentally it.
And I believe alcohol shouldn't have carbs, but we can't live in that world, We can't be like
it's gluten free though.
Damn it, John.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't just say everybody in the world should play by the same rules.
Everything should be fair.
Yeah. Well, not to bring up the C word, but we do have a document that says that's how it's supposed to be. Yeah.
Well, you said everybody in the world. I was including like North
Yeah.
Korea.
Okay.
That probably wouldn't go well.
That's not gonna. Although that would be fantastic if the world all played by the same rules. I was more thinking of like what we can control ourselves, right? So we have our own little experiment here called the U.S. of A., where we're experimenting with this concept of self-governance. Big ass experiment. We are like 250 years into it, and that's it. And we'll see how it works out. Yeah.
So I mean, the problem, first of all, you have with that is that what was the word that you used? It was like a self-government.
Communism.
No, it was like a self-government, like not affected by other countries, which is not true.
So
Like
sovereignty.
we are in a global economy in a global world. So the idea that we're autonomous and able to have fun and play our own little games is wholly not true. And if we want to like just use an obvious thing that happened, go to the beginning of this episode where we're talking about Hunter Biden losing a laptop in another country and how it affects.
Oh no, it was in the U.S.
Wherever the fuck, whatever, Putin hacking a thing, whatever the fuck happened, I don't know. But my point is that like pretending that we are in an autonomous like sovereign United States that's not affected by other countries is wholly not true. So that's
yeah. Well, we're definitely like okay. We are affected by other countries by default. We live on the same planet. Everybody has to share the same planet, right?
But even our economy is
affected
by other
intermingled.
countries.
Yeah,
the fact that we have to give money to other countries so that they can keep themselves propped up, so they don't go into turmoil and fight each other and then try to fight us. Like there's so many little things that go.
There's a lot of complex multinational
politics.
Politics and just like rails that industries exist on, you know, the overall economy is global, that kind of thing. But isn't it healthy to try to do better?
Yeah.
Or
that's just human nature.
Or is that I guess a waste of energy and just living your own life the best that you can?
That's called complacency.
A virtuous attitude.
So let's look at this. I love James Bond. I love James Bond. Big James Bond fan. Let's look at James Bond.
Okay.
Do you think James Bond is better, worse, or equal to the bad guys he kills? Now, think about all the fucking people he kills, all the buildings he blows up, all of the cars he runs through.
He's pretty he's not Batman.
No, he definitely doesn't mind having a license to kill.
Batman fucks shit up too.
Yeah, more recently he does kill shit.
How many buildings collapse because of Batman?
Batman's a dick. I'm just throwing that out there.
I love Batman, but I'm a dick too. So like,
oh, loud noises.
My wife just laughed so hard at that when I was like, Batman's a dick, but I'm a dick too. Or we could use a nicer version. Look at Robin Hood. Do you think Robin Hood is praying away to help his people? No, he's literally fighting and killing people in order to rob from the rich and give to the poor, right? So the idea that
I think Robin Hood would say that taxation is theft, and he is simply returning the stolen funds to its rightful owner.
Still theft, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. But my point is that like you can't be in a world where we're just like we're gonna outgood the bad guys.
Why not?
You know, because that's when you have the CIA running James Bond into a place to take care of the things, so we can pretend they don't exist. Right.
So the bad things are always going to exist, and
sooner or later, if we're gonna, I love Robin Hood as well. So because I think Robin Hood and James Bond are pretty similar. But anyway, if we're gonna use our James Bond analogy, at some point King Richard's gonna go away for a little bit. His shitty brother's gonna take over, okay, and that's who's gonna be in charge, right? You're not always going to have the good guy in power. It's not always going to be the case.
That is definitely something that I think is an important statement there.
Yeah.
You're not always going to have, and this is, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you too much.
You're good.
Yeah, and that's something that's important to me because it's possible that I have my mind too far in the future a lot of times, like in the clouds, looking too far ahead instead of paying attention to here and now. But I do have a legitimate concern with things like, let's say, for example, all the good guys are in power right now, just as a starting point, a fictional starting point. Let's just say that. And because things are going great, we turn over all of this responsibility and power and we centralize it into a government that has now centralized control over everything because it's just more efficient that way. Things run better. They'll take care of it, right? And then, we have elections every 4 years for president. And then somebody else comes in and inherits all of that centralized power. And that's the thing that I'm mostly concerned about, right? It isn't even like, oh, so and so did something improper today. It's okay, maybe they even did that for like righteous good reasons. But the danger is like whenever you do centralize that power, somebody else gets it in the end. It isn't going to be people die and go away and new people come in. My hearing just died. So I guess I don't know. I just wanted to point that out too, because like Hyperion Frequency said, when have the good guys ever been in power? When? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying that even if you believe that, and even if what you're doing is good objectively, let's just pretend that's the case. It's still not a good idea to centralize power because somebody else is going to inherit it after you.
So there were a couple things about what you said that I thought were interesting. One, where you're like, I have my head in the clouds. I think the world needs people like you, and then it needs people like me. It needs people like me that are like, hey, we got to take care of what's going on around us, what's happening, that kind of thing. And then without people like you, we don't go to the moon. Without people like you, we don't explore shit. We don't. Yeah, hey, there it is. I didn't even see that shirt.
Occupy Mars. Yeah.
without people like you, we're not fucking creating we're not creating blockchain and pushing the limits of whatever. Because with people like me, I'm like, hey, we have to fix what's around us because things are starting to smoke a little bit. There's a fire somewhere.
Yeah.
We got to find it. And you're like, yeah, there's a fire, but look over there. If we go over there and check that out, that might fix it. And like, that's kind of what happens where we're constantly like in our world, we're constantly putting out fires, but also seeing what's on the other side.
Yeah.
Which is kind of just how things have to function because of that's just how things have to function, I think. But that's how you don't have like innovation, right?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, because I think you're very, very, very right there. Because I'll go off the deep end sometimes, or down a rabbit hole, or whatever you want to call it, thinking like, okay, here's the pattern that I see today. Here's the trajectory that we seem to be going in. The direction we tend to be going in. These things are getting more common or more tolerated and things like that. And I'm just like, fucking A, if that continues for 5, 10, 15 more years, that doesn't look good to me, right? And so I started thinking, well, what can we do to make it less likely that it'll go badly? What can we do? What can we do differently, systemically, that makes it less bad? That kind of thing.
Yeah. And without
maybe those are mostly thought experiments, but some of them come to fruition.
Yeah, and without you, we wouldn't have science fiction as a genre. Because that's what science fiction is. It's going,
yeah.
Oh, what's the world going to look like in 30 years, 100 years, 200 years, whatever it is. Without people like you, Ursula Le Guin wouldn't be writing her novels. We wouldn't be having anything. So, thank you for being you, right?
And without people like you, I couldn't casually have a cup of coffee without stressing out and dying of whatever that causes, that kind of thing.
You need somebody to make sure the lights turn on. Kind of deal. So that way you can write the science fiction novel. Anyway, and then, so that's why, like, when you were, like, kind of throwing around this idea, yeah, some people just want to, and some people also need to know how to knit, right?
I like clothes.
We need all those things. So next time you're mad,
my feet get cold. I need socks.
But I always thought it was fun because, like, definitely growing up, I was like, one of the people that was, oh, burger flippers, whatever else, like, not.
We're just sitting here like complimenting each other.
Yeah, I'm about it. But like, like you need people that can do all these different jobs, and that's why I think like minimum wage shouldn't be like it should be a very livable wage because if you don't want to go flip burgers and you don't want to do all these other things, you need somebody that can. If you don't want to, like,
Mhm.
do you think a senator could sit on their feet for 8 hours and be a server? Hell no. I don't think they could. So people have different talents and they need to just be given enough money, hence universal income, whatever else. Anyway,
Yeah, this is where I do lean pretty left on some
yeah,
issues because I do like Andrew Yang convinced me that UBI is not only a good idea but necessary going forward. If we continue
yeah.
with automation and we continue with the way that Amazon is making jobs go away, some coming, they're creating some at the expense of like actual brick and mortar, the idea that you can spin up a store somewhere and make money and compete with them, that kind of thing.
Also,
um
Amazon workers work hard in those
mhm.
warehouses. Like, it's not like, oh, you can go get a job there. Like, that's rough. It's not an easy or good job to have. Like, a universal basic income, I think, basically goes, hey, Amazon, you're not very good at distributing wealth, so let's help you out because you need the good guy. You need somebody that's going to do that. Anyway,
Yeah,
um,
so I was one of the people driving around, like when the I guess it was 2020 or something. Anyway, whenever cities were locking down everywhere and you weren't able to go and do stuff, I had a thing in my windshield that says, "This fella here, he's an essential worker. Don't lock him down. Please let him pass," that kind of thing. And one thing that was a pretty common topic of conversation at the time was that look at all these essential workers. They're all the low paid, struggle to make ends meet people. And that's who you're saying are the most important essential workers to keep the world moving, right? There's definitely like their paycheck doesn't seem to say that kind of thing, So that's an interesting conversation too.
there's
Yeah,
your what's the communist thing? Um, getting
workers owning the means of production.
Yeah,
Yeah,
workers in means production. There you go.
yeah.
Hence universal income. Basic
I
universal
think
basic income.
I do think a lot of brain power is wasted on the struggle to eat and the struggle to pay for your family and things like that. Um, if people had the time and the leisure to actually do the things they wanted to do instead of the things they have to do to eat, I think we would have a better world. Some people would be lazy and not be productive, sure, but that happens anyway.
So here's my. I know you had like this is what would happen uh, if we centralize power, right? But then this is what would happen after the good guy leaves and the sheriff of Rottingham's in charge, or Prince John is in charge after King Arthur goes off, or whoever it is. Um,
The sword guy? Wait, what now?
Not
Oh
King
yeah, I see what
Arthur.
you're saying. The next person
Uh,
that comes around.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
if we're
yeah.
going to use my Robin Hood analogy, right? King Richard was the one Robin Hood. Anyway, I think there should be um, uh, a, a mom test for presidents.
A mom test?
A
What's the
mom
mom
test.
test?
I think they have to sit with my mother and talk to her.
Specifically, your mom test.
Yeah, specifically my mother, and, and you have to talk to her for like 5 hours, right? And like after 5 hours, my mom can tell if you're a decent person or not.
Oh, so this is like just a way to
Yeah,
this is the vetting
yeah.
methodology.
Let's
I
get
love
rid
it.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah, who are the people that interview people for like ABC? Get rid of those.
Hmm.
Get rid of those reporters. I want whoever runs next. I want Kamala Harris and DeSantis to sit down with a mom for 2 hours and let's just videotape it. You have to sit down and talk like they're people.
To like a
And
regular
that's it.
person, an
Yeah,
average regular. Well, not saying that your mom is super regular. I don't know your mom, but
She's
in
pretty
general,
regular.
the idea is like an average person
Yeah.
that isn't trained in the art of interviewing politicians, kind of
Yeah.
thing, to see what
I
happens
want
there.
them to sit down with my mother. Just because I think she's good at seeing through shit also. Like, my mom let me get away with shit, but she knew what was going on. Like, you know what I mean? So I think there should just be like the United States mother, like kind of like the Queen of England, you know? But they have to sit down and talk to them for like 2 or 3 hours. The mom of the United States, she bakes an apple pie. They sit down, they eat an apple pie with some ice cream because you have to have vanilla ice cream with your apple pie.
Make sure
And
you're not an android. Make sure you're not.
that's
Do
it.
you
And they
eat?
just
Are you a person? Like, you don't sound like a
yeah,
person sometimes. We eat that pie just so I can make sure.
yeah. And honestly, I think on like a lot of different issues, you could go strong left or strong right on them and kind of get a similar result on some things, right? But the problem is we're never going to follow a plan to the end, right? There's always going to be somebody attaching a writer, somebody attaching a whatever else onto it.
And
So
yeah,
so nothing's ever going to come out unscathed by lobbyists and earmarks and shit like that, right? So no plan's ever going to
and
be
so
100%.
that's what we have. That's what we have as the thing that exists that we have to work with. And
Yeah.
it probably is healthy to understand that things are never going to work out. This is sort of that, like, don't let perfection be the enemy of improvement or something like that thing,
Yeah.
where it's like, if it's not absolutely perfect, then I don't want any of it, even if it is a step in the right direction, that kind of thing.
Well, I think it's more that like we're never going to get to a place where we can just put out a perfect bill or put out a perfect piece of legislation, um, because of the world and the economy, not the economy,
And
but like the
and different
kind of
opinions do
government we're in.
exist. Different
But
opinions do exist about how
yeah,
things should be run. And
but
people who go ahead.
But if we can make sure that the person who's running the government, my mom, likes and approves of, I think we're doing pretty good. You
Pretty
know,
good judge of
if
character, seems
if
legit.
if you can pass the good guy test, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
let's.
Some people are
I
really good
would
at
say
that though. Like,
eh,
really, some people can take polygraphs and pass them. People are really good at that shit. They're
that's different
sociopaths,
though.
but and that's
I
maybe a
th-
different thing altogether. Is like, does the current vetting process lend itself to sociopaths? Maybe.
I think it does because the only person that wants to be anybody that could run for president could run for it could be the CEO of whatever else and make a lot more money, and with like a third of the work. Anybody that
Officially,
runs anybody that runs for president is doing it for an ego
I don't know.
thing.
They make a lot of money. They make a lot of money, not officially, but they end up, for some reason, they go in not multimillionaires and they come out multimillionaires.
You know the
For
amount of
some
hours.
reason, I don't know.
You know the amount of hours it takes to be president. Pretty crazy amount.
Oh yeah,
It's a lot of
it should
time
be a
and
tough
energy.
job. Yeah.
Exactly, it's a very tough job.
All I'm
On
saying is they
top of
come out
that,
with a little bit more than $400,000 a year, or however
and
much it is.
what I'm well, which I get, but what I'm saying is that they could go do something else somewhere else and make a hell of a lot more money.
Yeah,
And with
some of
for a
them
hell of a
should.
lot, they could sit on the board of directors of like 5 companies, each that pays them $500,000 a year, and go to one meeting a quarter.
Well, they
And,
do that. That's exactly what they do once they leave office, because that's
and
their payback for getting the things done that the companies wanted done while they were in office. That's
that's
the part where you're allowed to bribe politicians in this country so long as it's via a third-party lobbyist or the payoff doesn't come until after they're out of office.
so
That seems to
yeah.
fly just fine.
So that's my point. Is we need, and then like I think like every 6 months they got to sit back down with my mom.
Just
You know,
like
and
evaluation report. Like, all right,
and
let's
yeah,
see how you did. Let's see how
it's
you
like
did this year. I don't
let's look.
know.
It's basically let's look at your report card, honey.
Yeah.
Okay, are we gonna put this report card on the fridge, or are we gonna have some talks?
That's
You
your
know what I
midterm
mean?
elections. is talk to
Well-
mom again. You said you were going to do
Well-
all these. You did the opposite. I don't know if you're being genuine.
It's not the midterm election because that's for people that only get elected every 2 to 4 years.
You're talking about twice a year.
I'm talking about there's a televised, essentially, instead of the State of the Union, it's the state of my
Your
mom.
mom.
I have to figure out a better.
The state of your mom.
I gotta.
That's
figure out
our
a
new
better-
segment.
I need a better tagline for that. But
I've got something perfect. Can we segue with that?
yeah, whatever we want.
Okay,
Let's
cool.
bring-
Because I was gonna bring up something. I still will. I'll go ahead and bring it up. I wanted to eventually change the subject a little bit and go on to something a little bit more lighthearted. But since we're talking about the state of your mom, let's bring up a really good judge of character and a mom, like Gwen Lisa. What is up, Lisa? How you doing this morning?
Good morning. Good morning. Speaking of moms, I am in my Christmas PJs because we were momming it last night.
Nice.
The homeschool moms had our Christmas party, and we all got together in our Christmas PJs and shared fuzzy socks with each other and told stories and made cookies and did all the homeschool mom things.
That sounds awesome. I'm looking forward to like I went a long time without doing like proper Christmas stuff. A lot of that was because of the Navy. A lot of that was just my family is sort of a patchwork family anyway. But my wife's from Germany. So my German side of the family goes fucking hard on Christmas every year. Like all of Germany does. There's these huge Christmas markets. They're in every town square.
Yes.
Like the Glühwein is flowing. Christmas is a 3-day marathon. You hop around to people's houses, spend the night, go to the next person's house, spend the night there, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm getting amped up to go do that again this year.
So like fun. We grew up and when there was 4 of us originally, and then my mom married my stepdad, and so there's 7 of us, and so we're broke as crap, but it didn't matter. Like Christmas was not about the stuff. It was about like the traditions and the family, and it's like the house got warmer and there was always more to eat and everybody was a little bit happier. So like that was just always a really great time for me. So I try to do the same thing here. You know, the tree always goes up, the stockings go out. I've always got like, you know, cookies or some popcorn out or something going all the time. So
we walk around when we're walking the dog. We make sure that we take the routes that have the prettiest Christmas lights and stuff. Like, let's go down this way today because I saw they had lights up. Let's go check it out. They got music playing out in the front yard and stuff.
Yeah,
you know who has some pretty nice Christmas lights?
New York, I heard.
There's a big old tree too.
There's a couple big old trees, and there's a couple Christmas markets too, man. There's a really cool Christmas market, like a 10-minute walk from where I am.
I feel like they would do it right.
Now.
That there's a big enough, like there's a big enough every culture, it seems like, to have that version of the thing be proper and big and real and all that, you know. So there's probably a German Christmas market. Is there a German town like Chinatown?
I'm sure there is, because there's like Koreatown and like Little Italy and everything else. So I'm sure there's areas that have more German influence than others. I actually went to a Georgian restaurant last night, super good. But yeah, there's like a really cool like Christmas market and stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of them. So I don't know. You might have to come before New Year's. Just saying.
Very cool.
Come check it out.
Well, I can't this year because I'm booked up.
I'm telling you, come before it.
Just leave trip this weekend. I'm leaving at the end that last part of the month to go to Germany over Christmas. I'm going to be in Prague after that. I gotta ding.
So
I got them all lined up, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you need me to host coffee with Dan, let me know. It'll be very different by the time you get back.
Yeah, I was gonna just maybe not do it for a couple of weeks, but maybe I'll just give it to John.
There you go.
That could be
Show
fun
up for John. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hyperion Frequency is he's got a lot of really good comments in the chat actually, but he was just saying Oktoberfest is Germantown. Instead of having a Germantown, we just have like an Oktoberfest that everybody turns into Germantown for a couple of weeks, or their version of Bavarian culture or whatever it
But
is.
that's not Christmas, is it?
No, we were
Oktoberfest?
just talking about like, is there a Germantown versus a Chinatown, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But yeah, you don't get the Christmas.
Yeah.
You don't get the Christmas German
Has to be
thing
Christmas.
as much as you do in actual Germany. Just like I'm sure you don't get the Chinese thing even in Chinatown in New York as much as you get in China. Obviously, it's very Chinese there.
I don't know. That's probably I feel like that's a bold assumption there, dude.
Yeah. That's a
saying-
that's a generalized racial statement. It's very Chinese there.
I don't know. Next, you're going to be telling me there's more South Americans in South America than in America. What are you talking about, man?
Talking crazy stuff over there.
All right.
Speaking of Italy,
what was this Berlin Wall picture you had up?
Yeah. So Juicy J, one of your fellow New Yorkers, I think, put up this thing. It was here it is. So this was posted over, I think, in the history layer. Let me see. History, yeah. So one of the longest single residential building. Is today Pearl Harbor Day?
Yes, it is.
Why did I think it was the 6th? I'm the military guy, and I still didn't know
Today's Wednesday, the 7th, Pearl Harbor Day. Well, it's in my calendar. It is.
Yeah, well, I'm sure your calendar is probably right because those things are automated, and you just get told what the truth is through your calendar now.
Well, it's on.
That was partially.
Is that better than Google? I don't know.
Who is it?
I said it's on paper, so is that better than Google?
Oh, well, that's probably better. Yeah, that's more decentralized.
Okay,
you can probably believe that. But no, this is a building in Italy, I guess, for 8,000 people. It's a kilometer long, and it was created to be self-sufficient. An experiment of social housing with stores, services, medical clinics, etc., designed to be a world of its own. That sounds like a
nightmare.
Could be a nightmare, could be very convenient. But I just wanted to point out that America did it better. Because here's a similar capacity building that I'm more familiar with. That holds about 6,500, maybe 7,000 people. Also self-sufficient, has its own medical services and stores. Only has to refuel every 25 years, and is highly mobile. You can move out of your shitty country if you want. That was mostly a joke, but
I vote for that.
I thought it was an interesting.
Could you make a boat like that its own country?
That's a good question. I know it has its own category in the postal service. It's a floating post office, FPO. Yeah, it's an FPO address. They call it a floating post office.
Interesting.
So, yeah, that's a federal recognition that it moves around. Not that it's its own country, but yeah.
I'm just wondering if you could defect.
Okay. All right, so this might be a little off topic.
Trades also says it's Pearl Harbor Day. That's two references, Lisa.
Confirmation.
Yeah.
So I watched little thing about me. I've never seen the movie Titanic.
Oh yeah?
Until yesterday.
You watched it yesterday.
I watched the movie Titanic yesterday. Holy shit, that's a bad movie.
Is it? I haven't seen it.
Holy
I haven't seen
shit.
Titanic since it came out, probably.
Oh my god.
I haven't seen it since I was 13 years old or some shit. So yeah.
There's a museum thing called Titanic or something. No, there's a play right now, I think on Broadway called Titanic about the Titanic. And then there's a museum as well about the Titanic. And we're going to go see the museum on Thursday and some other shit. So my wife's like, we should watch the movie Titanic.
We should watch it so we have some context.
Oh my God, that was the worst movie.
Now you don't want
ever.
to go to the museum or the play.
No, I complained about it the entire time. It's an hour for them to get off this boat. For the Titanic to sink. We're just watching this. James Cameron makes every single fucking moment seem like the biggest moment in history.
It's kind of his thing.
Yeah. Also, come on, Rose. If you would have just gotten on the lifeboat, then DiCaprio would have had he would have had the door to himself, so he would have lived, right? He wouldn't have had to deal with her like slowing him down, like holding hands, trying to get out. No, you save yourself so I can focus on me. Like, was
Put on
stupid.
your own oxygen mask first, and then you can save somebody else.
Yeah, like let him go do his shit. Like, no, you jump, I jump. No, you just wanted to make sure he died. Like, you just,
I did think it was I don't know, funny or whatever, that at the end she was like, "I'll never let go, Jack. I'll never let go. I'll never let go." And then she lets go.
And then she lets go. Yes.
So Dakota explained that to me. It was let go of life. It wasn't supposed to be like let go of that. It was like let go of. So Dakota explained
hold
that
the
to
fire.
me because I complained about that too.
But then she throws away the thing too, the memory thing.
Oh my god, that pissed me off the most. I had like, I yelled about it for like 45 minutes afterwards. Okay, the move. First of all, we all know the Titanic sinks. Second of all,
Hype Freak is never going to go watch it.
You go in watching the Titanic and you're like, I wonder what happens.
Okay, so, right? Like, she just takes. First of all, she could have sold the fucking diamond and then gone and done all the cool ass shit that she was supposed to do instead of just some of them. Like, imagine how much more of the world and how much of holding on to life she could have done if she sold the fucking diamond. Also, I loved how cavalier she was about her ex just putting a gun in his mouth because he lost his money in the stock market crash. Yeah,
I don't remember that one for some reason.
Hockley or whatever.
Yeah.
Her fiance.
He offed
it's
himself.
Like, yeah,
he lost
I
a bunch
remember
of money.
reading somewhere that he put a gun in his mouth in 1929. I'm like, that was the most cavalier way to say that this guy.
Well, maybe she had some time to process that by the time she said it. So
whatever,
casually.
Whatever it was, I thought it was just fucking hilarious how she sounded like that.
That's great. We should do more movie reviews from you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really good. That's what Dakota says I should do that shit all the time. And then you have it now. You have a granddaughter who wipes your ass and takes care of you every day, but you're not going to give her this inheritance. You're 101 years old. Like, give her the fucking.
It's not for sale, John.
It's not for sale. But what happens if she's like, would you rather have your granddaughter like broken, like not live? First of all, granddaughter is not living life. Granddaughter is taking care of a senile old lady that forgets the people she met after 10 minutes. Like, that literally happens in the movie. She forgets she met somebody. Like, literally in the movie. Yeah. Give the fucking diamond to your granddaughter who's been taking care of you. Like,
it does seem like a
oh my God.
sort of a little bit of a selfish thing, I guess, when you put it like that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to sell it, but I'm also not going to let it go to my family, and I'm not going to let anybody even know what happened to it. And this is just for me, and it's mine, and it dies with me.
But
she hid it for like 70 years, 80 years.
It's the Picasso in the attic. It has no value then. Right? I mean, if you never use it, if it's a tool that's never used, it has no value.
Yeah, like, she didn't look at it. I'm sure she wasn't like Smeagol at night petting it before she went to sleep. Like, I'm glad you got it. I probably should have said Gollum. That would have been better.
Yeah, that's all right.
Right? Like, it and then just throws over the side, like, all the money and time and energy that was spent with like this one dude to find it. Like, she could have at least been like, hey, I actually have it right now. Like, stop looking for it. It's mine. Like, y'all can bugger off.
Did that thing, do you know if that thing ever existed? You were going to the museum thing, right? Or whatever it was?
I don't think it's a real story. So it's not.
But did the thing exist? Did the jewel?
I don't know. You'll have to fucking the heart of the ocean. I'm sure there's a big ass.
The heart of the ocean. That's what it was called. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a big ass blue diamond somewhere that existed, but like. And I'm sure Louis' fat ass like had one at some point.
I don't know this for sure, but I'm thinking that the evil lizard lady, Queen of England, had something similar to that.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing something like that. Yeah,
didn't she have...
It's not a real piece of jewelry, but it is hugely popular. Nonetheless, it's not real.
Yeah, it looks like this.
Yeah. It's supposed to be based off the Hope Diamond, is what it is.
Diamond.
But
Oh,
it's
That's
not.
what
It's
I'm
not
thinking
real.
of.
I've seen that thing, or at least I've seen what a museum told me was the Hope Diamond.
Right.
I've
that's
seen.
the
We
one.
can never be too
Yeah.
sure.
I saw what I thought it was. Yeah. It's like the Monet at UF. Have you seen that one?
No,
There's
I
a
haven't.
big ass Monet painting at the museum in Gainesville. There's no guard, no nothing. There's like a little light beeping sound that happens if you get super close. I think that's it. No, I don't even know if it beeps anymore. I think it's just like a line on the ground that says "Don't cross this." There's no way that fucking Monet is real. There's
I
no
got,
way. One kid with ketchup hands walks in there and touches it.
Yeah.
There's no way it's real. There's
Yeah.
no way.
Yeah, we saw that happen with a different painting in Gainesville. There's a Cuban sandwich shop and taco shop called Flacco's that has a bunch of paintings up on the wall. And there was like security footage. They had like a wanted poster on the door. Somebody walked in. It was like 2 a.m. because they're open late. They just took it off the wall and they walked out.
Oh my gosh!
I'm like, oh yeah, somebody stole that. And then they brought it
like-
back a while later. I think they were just drunk, having a good time or something, and they were
Oh.
like,
Well,
"Fuck,
they
we
posted on
stole
the
a
internet. It was
painting
like
last night."
they posted on the internet. It was like if you bring it back, we won't press charges.
Yeah,
Like,
and they
we
did,
know
right?
we were just
Yeah.
dumb and
They didn't press charges.
thinking
They
it
just
was
brought it
fun. Yeah.
But like,
Oopsie.
also,
we'll
I
give you an
think-
oopsie.
I think the shitty paintings at Flacco's are different than a Monet.
That's up to your personal taste.
I don't know. It depends who made it. Maybe it's something really personal, and
I don't like them. I'm not a big fan of the paintings in Flacco's, but that's different.
There was like a pig with an assault rifle for an arm. You don't like that?
Yeah, it's very not
Abstract, maybe?
good.
Impressionist?
No, I
don't know what those words mean.
I wouldn't. It's not impressionist. I mean, abstract is like it's like saying alternative. It's like an all-encompassing thing that grabs whatever doesn't fit into realism.
Like the picture behind John's head.
Like this pig
Yeah.
here. That's
No,
one of
this
them.
is my brother's. This is like a decoupage.
See, I don't know any of those words.
That's what I'm gonna start doing. Some of that.
Mixed media. It's got like not post magazine pictures and shit,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
cool.
My brother's an artist in New York.
I have seen some
Ooh.
cool collage stuff. That's what I would call it.
He's
Not
got
a
a
fancy
lot
word.
of really cool different stuff. It's pretty great. But yeah, I don't know. That movie was fucking bullshit.
Back to
Also,
Just to circle
also,
back
what
on that.
the Italian guy, we see him at the beginning of the movie, and then Jack never talks to him again. They're best friends. They like risk everything they have to get tickets on the Titanic, and then they never see each other.
But then he gets a girl.
Yeah,
Aren't there-
he doesn't even get a girl. He talks to him. He saves a girl's life one time. Go back and tell your buddy, like in the room or whatever. Like we never see them talk again.
Aren't there
like-
careers for like continuity editors? Like,
Yeah,
that seems like something you'd be really, really good at.
no, because the problem is that if you watch basically any movie, there's little continuity. Like a lot of them really don't have a lot of continuity to it. The continuity editors are like, let's make sure that the hands on the clock say the same time
Yeah.
for every shot.
You
And
shot
that,
this
like,
one scene over 2 weeks, and oh, by the way, you're not in here. You're wearing a watch, and then you're not wearing a watch. You done
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Those are continuity and script editors. There's like a script assistant as well that basically just makes sure that people are staying on the script and also that any lines that are ad-libbed or changed or whatever during the course of production are in continuity with the rest of the film and the script. And then they also constantly like make edits to the script as things change and happen on set. Anyway, yeah, that movie's bullshit. I
saw it when I was like super young, and I remember specifically the reason that I saw it was because girls liked it. And so like I could hang out with girls and watch I was 13.
Yeah.
So I was like, I could hang out with girls and watch this movie. And that was the reason that we watched it, was like we could hang out together on the sofa together at her mom's house, and her mom might leave the room and we'll just watch TV together. gives us an excuse to be near girls. Is
I
that
think it's
sad, or is that just
I think
13?
that's-
I did the same thing. What are you talking about? I feel like the Titanic is it basically you gave Hallmark like a giant budget.
Before they had a
If you
channel.
if you gave the Hallmark Channel like a bunch of fucking money to make a movie, they would make the Titanic. Is what it would be. Because like the shots in it are just everything's just so grandiose. Like everything's fucking the
There
biggest
are some
moment of
cool
their
scenes
lives.
like that. If you remove the story from it, there's some great scenes in there. There's
Like which one?
visually impressive. Like
Oh, yeah.
sliding, like the guy that falls off of the railing when the boat's like that, and then he hits the propeller and does the tumble. I was like, oh gosh, that was specific.
There are like some stuff that probably was very cool for 1997.
The flooding rooms and the struggle there and all that stuff was better than like there was a Titanic film that was made in like the 70s or something, or maybe earlier. I don't know. And it was just like before they figured out how the Titanic really went down, I think. And it was just like it was upside down. And so they were filming in an upside down ship. And that was kind of like, and there was all that, the struggle involved with getting out. And there was nothing else really more to it. It was just like, oh shit, we're all in a ship that went upside down and we got to escape. The Titanic tried to at least like get the viewer to be, like it attempted to make you like the characters enough to not want them to die. I'll say that.
Yeah. It takes them 2 hours to do that, so that way we can have an hour escape room. Oh my god!
Oh right, it is like 3.5 hours long or something.
Yeah, it's like 3 hours or something. But like, and think about all the other movies. Like, have you ever seen a movie that I think it was like Deep Blue or something like
Deep
that?
Blue Sea,
where there's just like killer sharks or something.
Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah, it's the same thing. They're just trying to escape.
They're under the water.
Thing
There's holes for the
sinking.
sharks to come in and eat. Was it Samuel L. Jackson? You know? Yeah.
It was just
has my favorite. My favorite part of that movie is LL Cool J. I think wasn't he in it as the chef, the cook, and he knows he's gonna die in this scene, and so he wants to. And he's got a video camera, so he's like, "What is my last contribution to the world?" We'll start with the perfect omelet, which is made with 2 eggs, not 3. Some people add milk for density. This is a mistake. And he starts like giving cook chef tips, and I thought it was a great scene.
You have an amazing memory.
A recall, yeah, I guess so.
yeah. Or just like very specific things.
That's true, man. My short-term memory is if it doesn't like I have a hard time getting things into long-term, but once it's filed away, I can recall that shit. Like
wow,
a movie.
that was impressive.
So,
but yeah.
But
so anyway,
how do you think he's dying and someone's going to find this camera in the bottom of the ocean that sharks are eating everyone?
Well, yeah, there is that.
There's a lot of continuity things wrong with just about everything. Like nothing. If you watch any movie, most of it doesn't make sense.
A lot of it doesn't.
But you're not supposed to think about that.
That would be a good. Like we could do a "What's Wrong with X" as a like a episodal thing. What's wrong with Titanic? What's wrong with Deep Blue Sea? And just rant about it the whole time.
I want to do Wall-E. I want to rant about Wall-E.
Oh yeah. Wall-E was. I saw it once. It was good.
Because we're living in Wall-E.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the people that like everything's automated for them, even the like, you don't even have to walk around anymore, kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like during COVID, that's what happened to everyone because we socially got so used to not talking to each other.
Yeah, we kind of
the mask,
like everybody was forced to go through this medium of,
and you're physically 6 feet away, and so you just stop engaging. And then when they're sitting in the chairs and they're just passing each other, and they're all so lonely, but like you're literally right by a person. But they just don't talk to each other. There
is excellent social commentary in a lot of like cartoons and shit. And, like I never really got into art until like maybe like 10 years ago at the most. But like more recently, I kind of get art more, and I'm seeing like,
Mm.
oh, this wasn't an accident. That was intentionally included for a reason, and it's like between the lines commentary.
It's
Like I used to just take things way too literal, and I wouldn't like interpret it as much as I should. Anyway, yeah, Dave likes art now.
Art is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's
And
kind
I
of like
wasn't beholding
pornography.
very well.
It's kind of like pornography. You know it when you see it.
You
Just
know it
like
when you
art.
see it, I guess.
Just
Well,
like art, you know it when you see it.
like with the cartoons thing, I mean, I remember growing up and watching cartoons or whatever, or hearing, and then when I have kids, then like I would hear cartoons that they're watching or whatever while I'm doing whatever in the house. And I'm like, oh, what are they saying? Because they'll put little adult innuendos
Oh
into
yeah,
children's cartoons to make it funny or entertaining for adults as well. But the kids don't really get it. They don't know what you're saying, or maybe they do. Maybe it puts some subliminal thing in the kid's head. I don't know. But that's kind of a way of making the cartoon sometimes a political statement or a piece of art. As
yeah.
well.
I feel like part of that too is like that parents are gonna have to sit here and watch this with their kids or
Yeah.
something, so they want to make it at least like make them sort of entertained as well, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. I posted something over in the movies layer that I have one of the films downloaded, but I found there was like a YouTube video that had all of them smushed together, and it was political cartoons, but it was from the Department of Defense or something. It was from do we have a War Department, or did we during World War II? Anyway, it was an official, like they showed it to soldiers and sailors and airmen and stuff, to teach them about fighting the war in Germany, and it talked about here it is. It's called
Is it
Private Snafu.
Yes, I've seen this.
Yeah, and it talks about it's really, to me, it's super interesting because it and here I'll just mute it. let
Like
it roll
tells
here.
him not to be a commie or not to tell on your.
Yeah, in the way that it depicts like it's really good animation too. It's really entertaining to watch, but the subjects are very political. The subjects are very like talking about censorship, talking about depicting the Germans and the Nazis and Hitler a certain way, and taken in context for that what was going on in the world at that time. I just thought it was a really interesting cartoon to watch. So they got one on the Goofiest Soldier. They got one on like spies. They've got one on like, be careful what you write in your letters. You don't want to give
That's the
away
one
too
I saw.
much. Yeah, stuff like that. And I don't know. The whole thing is just like this, basically. It's like Bugs
So
Bunny, but
I
sticking
saw
your
one where
barrel of
like
your like that, for example.
I saw one where like the soldier wrote home to the girlfriend and like it ended up killing like the whole crew
Yeah, he was
because
responsible for like wiping out the.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
these
they
were
all knew
shown.
where they were.
These were shown to like soldiers.
I think so. I don't know the full history on it really, but at the beginning of some of them, it says it's like for internal use only or something.
What
And
the
it's like,
fuck?
yeah. And so it was like sort of trying to get certain points across during the war. This was created and shown. Yeah. So I recommend checking them out just because they're really interesting, just to see that this is really that was really a thing,
Well, didn't they do like back in this day, like if they were all somewhere and they'd do like movie night or whatever, and they'd all go and I mean, there wasn't a lot to do back then.
That was definitely a thing. Like we had movie nights because I was on a ship for months at a time out in the ocean, didn't even see land for months.
Right.
And so we had to figure something out to keep our sanity in that situation. So we would have what we called steel beach picnics, where we would just get like a barbecue and some like lawn chairs out on the flight deck where the helicopters typically would take off and land. We would just barbecue and do like a talent show. We would do we weren't allowed to have beer on the ship except under certain circumstances. But we would bring, what is the non-alcoholic really
O'Doul's.
popular? O'Doul's, yeah. So we would bring cases of O'Doul's so that we could have pizza parties with beer, fake beer, and shit like that. So yeah, definitely like movie night, stuff like that was a big thing. You're right. That's probably where this was shown, now that I think about it, because there wasn't an internet. There wasn't like an easy way to send files to each other to check it out.
Mm-hmm.
Like even when I was in, we were trading hard drives and DVDs, that kind of thing.
Do you think that I remember you talk about that now. Do you think they probably use cartoons so that they could like make war at least like a little less like of a real thing, and like, oh, killing isn't a big deal, it's just a cartoon or something
Comic
like that
relief
too.
from
Yeah,
like
trying to like
the anguish.
desensitize. Yeah, and be like, hey, it's not a big deal. Like, this is what happens when things blow up. You just kind of fly into the air and then land.
Yeah, you got to keep morale up, because if you don't keep
Yeah.
morale up, you don't have a fighting force that's worth a damn, because everyone's just too sad to be effective.
There was a show on about I think it was Detroit or something was doing a big push for recruitment of police officers, and there was a show about there was a mom and her son that were both going in through the school or training to become police officer, and the son had been like a big gamer and whatever, so he'd like killed a bunch of people online, all this,
His hand-eye coordination was down,
I guess.
yeah.
But he'd never actually shot a real gun. And so when they got to the part in the training where they handled and did training with real guns, he was like literally like blown away. Like he couldn't believe the power of a gun. Like it really shocked him.
Yeah, because on video games, like
Yeah.
if I use a mouse and keyboard, I'm just kind of
pow,
like
pow all day.
clicking on heads. Pew, 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 pew,
Yeah.
pew, that kind of thing.
And so it was just really, and that's where I was just like, okay, this is why, like,
It's a different
gun
thing
safety
altogether.
should be taught in school, or parents should teach kids at an early age in a safe way. You know what I mean? Just that the significant. If you know something is that powerful, they're more likely to stay away. Then it is real, and it's not dumbed down and desensitized to it. And
that's how I was raised. Gun safety. Of course, I also grew up like growing food and hunting food.
Right.
It's just a way of life too. And so like gun ownership was just something that like until I was probably freaking, I don't know, until I was like 10, probably. I just assumed everybody had a gun. Like that's just in the entire world, everybody had a gun at home because people have guns, and that's it can be for defense and it can be for hunting, and that's what they were for. And they were dangerous, and you never pointed it at something you didn't want to shoot or kill, and you had respect for like how powerful it was. And gun safety was definitely instilled in me during childhood. Even still, this is a crazy scene. I haven't seen this one yet. It's like dancing ladies on the cartoon now. But even with that, I remember, like, if you go through real training, firearms training with the military, like for example, I didn't expect to have to learn how to shoot in the dark necessarily, right? But I went through like a whole class about how to shoot if you don't have your vision, if you can't see the target. How do you shoot the target if you can't see it? Or how do you even like, I don't know, running around and rolling behind cover and then shooting and stuff like that. That's like video game shit. In real life, it's hard and it's dangerous because you're moving around. Your muzzle is like pointing in different directions if you're not careful. So there's a lot of things that video games do for you to make it easier. That if it's in real life, not only is it more powerful, but it's more dangerous, and you can accidentally shoot somebody way easier than you thought you could.
Yeah.
Now I just want to watch this cartoon and see what kind of crazy shit happens.
There's going to be some more wild stuff.
Lisa, I'm sorry you missed out on the first part of the politics hour. We were.
Oh, yeah.
We were.
I talk politics all the time. I'm good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. I didn't want you to feel like you missed out because I know you've got opinions there too.
I'm like, I'm ready to start over.
Time to hang out and talk about cartoons.
It's time for one party. No politics. One party for us to all come together and start over and build together.
Can we have a cartoon like segment on the show from now on? We just
Dude,
watch cartoons
I would
for
love to
10
do that
minutes.
in the cannabis layer. I would love to literally just so we can get public domain cartoons like this,
Yeah.
and we can just get fucking blazed and watch cartoons. That's a show. I feel like that's a show. It's a show for me. I don't care if anybody else likes it. It'll be fun. Hang out with my friend John. Lisa, you can come too.
Okay.
I don't know if I'd want to watch. Like,
I know you don't
old,
smoke, but you're
I
invited
don't.
too.
I don't know if I'd want to watch old World War II propaganda stone though. That might make me more sad than anything else.
Yeah, I'll have to reach out to some of my Navy
Uh,
friends and be like, "Yo, you want to watch old war movies or cartoons,
Yeah.
propaganda
Me-
shows?"
I'm sure there's something else out there that's not World War II propaganda that we could watch.
That also
But
would be public domain and okay to like play on the internet and like not violate
there's got to
the
be some
things.
YouTube stuff. I don't
Yeah.
know. There's something somewhere.
So considering that it's Pearl Harbor Day, and with
Mhm.
you guys, I was having this thought when we were talking about the Titanic movie, and then there's always movies that like it's about the thing, like, and John, you were saying like, oh God, it took us 2 hours to care about these people, and then we had to watch the movie for another hour or whatever. But they don't talk about the why the thing happened, why the
Ah,
2 big buildings fell and the other one fell that nobody talks about, and why the boat went down.
sometimes they do.
So
Like
Titanic, they talk about why it goes down in
they
the
talk
movie.
about it.
Yeah, this is what I know about the Titanic is from what I watched yesterday.
Okay.
It says in the movie that it went down, one, because they wanted to try to make it across the Atlantic like really fast. They wanted to get there a day early. And what happens is when I mean, Dave, you can probably explain this better than I can. When you're going faster than you should, it takes longer for you to turn.
yeah, ships are really hard to turn once
So,
they're in motion.
yeah.
Yeah.
And especially when they're going like really fast, so it's harder to like turn. And then throughout the movie, also, so that was the big part. And then throughout the movie, also, they're like, they couldn't. There was like an iceberg. Oh, it was the waves weren't. The sea was really calm, so the waves weren't breaking on the icebergs.
So they didn't see
So you couldn't
the
see
break.
that ahead of time. Yeah, and then also like apparently they lost the binoculars that help you see in the movie. I don't know how true that is.
Yeah. Functionally,
like,
Yeah,
it
but
also
none of that's
sank
true.
because of the partitions. The partitions were only so high in the bottom of in the Titanic, like the walls between segments. So it was segmented so that like you could flood certain compartments or something,
Yeah,
and it wouldn't sink the whole ship. This is
Yeah.
why they were like, "Oh, it's unsinkable." But actually, no. At the top of these partitions, it was you could spill over into the next one, which is what happened.
and that's what it said. It said that like if 4 compartments flood, you're okay. If a 5th one does, it's going to sink. And then also, they only had half the amount of lifeboats that they needed for the
Yeah.
amount of people
That was
because
true,
it
yeah.
looked tacky.
Because it looked tacky. That's what I read too. Yeah, that it was
Because
like
it looked
it looked
tacky.
bad. And it's
Having all-
unsinkable. So why do you need those anyway, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that
but
was the big thing about it.
it really sunk though because they were trying to kill all those people that were like market disruptors for and then is it JP Morgan that was supposed to be on the boat, but then he turned around and walked off.
I don't
Right
know.
before.
I'm not as familiar with that one.
I don't know about that one.
That's
I
the
don't-
why it
yeah.
went under was they killed all those people on purpose.
That would be interesting to see, like a manifest that showed the names and occupations of everybody that was on.
There was
I
something else.
could see that being something that well, I'll put it this way. I can see there being enough there to build a theory around.
Yeah, no, there's a huge conspiracy theory about that.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I would also imagine that like that's the type of person who would be able to afford that trip in the first place. So it could naturally turn out to be like a bunch of finance people on it, and maybe that's the non-conspiratable reason that a certain like class of people were on it.
So the only thing about that
I'm
too
just
is that
speculating though.
when the Titanic went down, they thought. I mean, the movie's very much about class, right? So like the first
Yeah, that's a
class
big theme in it, yeah.
passengers were allowed to get on the lifeboats, while the second and third class passengers were locked back and couldn't get on the boat. So they let all of the
They
first
locked
class
him up.
pass.
They
Yeah,
locked him,
they locked him on the lower levels,
dude.
because it happened at night, so everybody was like asleep or whatever in their
Yeah.
rooms. So they closed those gates and
Huh.
only let the first class passengers get off. Well, so like their levels were flooding. That's how they
Yeah.
knew it was happening.
That's
And
censorship,
the-
man.
that's literally like that actually happened.
Genocide.
Yeah.
So
On the
like
boat.
I feel like that's the worst way to kill JP Morgan would be like, hey, we're gonna put you on this, but also we're gonna let you be the first people off the boat. So that seems a little like back and forth there.
I am
Um,
interested. Like,
Yeah, and there was
like if
another thing where they were worried about the boats being too crowded, so they weren't filling them up either. Because they like the first class people don't want to be crowded on a boat.
because they don't want to be like, oh, there's other people touching me in my arm. I don't know, that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And then
Fuck 'em.
another thing too is like after basically what happens when it goes down, the Titanic goes down, right? And there's like a big like plunge, and there's like a vacuum that pulls everything near you. So the lifeboats have to paddle really far away, and then they come back to pick up people that are dead, right?
Mhm.
But you don't want to do that because in your head, there's going to be a whole bunch of people climbing to get on your boat that's going to sink your boat in the craziness. And also, you're a rich, boozy person that doesn't want like these third class people that are soaking wet on your lifeboat.
Lisa just sent me a link to the.
So if you scroll down to the one that says deliberately sunk, some
Yeah,
theories.
here's the closing watertight doors one. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the closing watertight doors. The one right above that says this Titanic was sunk on purpose to eliminate opposition of the creation of the Federal Reserve Bank.
Oh, wild. Interesting.
Hmm.
I would be interested in this is the kind of stuff that I would love to see written up in the conspiracy layer. Because like whether they're true or not,
Can I plagiarize?
it's
the
highly
conspiracy layer?
fucking yeah, sure. I don't
Okay.
like just tag it.
'Cause I don't have time.
Like you can copy and paste and just tag it as
Awesome.
non-original. You know, just don't try to pass it off. Don't
No.
literally plagiarize it and say it's
I
original.
won't.
You know that's
It'll be
all.
like shared from WikiLeaks.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and
people
if you
don't
wanna
like
do
it
that,
when I
and then-
share just a link. So like they want me to copy and paste it and put the link or something. I don't know
People are
what's the
picky
best
and
one.
whatever. It's, do what you want to do, man.
Okay.
You
I
know,
feel like
we're
there's
only-
an easier way to kill people than sinking the Titanic.
but you got to make it look like it's an accident. At
Yeah,
the same
you gotta
time.
look-
How do you
make it
do it
look
and make it
like an
like an
accident.
accident? And this is why I'm interested in it, is because like if you like it's interesting to see
You think it's easy?
plausibility. That's what it is. It's like if there's plausible conspiracy theories, even if they're untrue, it's super interesting if they're plausible because maybe I'm wrong and they are true. I don't know. I don't know what world I live in ultimately.
Yeah, I feel like there's an easier way to make it look like it's an accident than sinking the unsinkable ship. I feel like
Maybe not at the
there's-
time. I don't know. I wanted to say though, sometimes in film they do address things like JFK, right? The JFK film. Also, like wait, super long, right? 2 or 3 VHS. I don't think it was long as The Stand, Stephen King's The Stand, but it was like super long, double VHS kit, that kind of thing. But they did go into conspiracy theories, and they did go into like what may have happened that is not the official statement of how the assassination went down and stuff like that. So you do sometimes see it, and I see it on Netflix sometimes too. They'll do interesting takes on historical events and be like, oh, by the way, here's what sort of actually might have happened that they didn't tell you about. So it exists.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not enough. But that's interesting. Thanks for sharing.
I feel
your
like
link
with
on
the
that.
forensic technology back then, it would have been easier to poison somebody probably than to sink them.
But
Like,
how
I
could
don't-
you poison all these people at once?
Yeah, nobody will get
it's-
suspicious on that.
What do you mean all these people? It's 3 people. There's 3 people. I don't know. There's one bad dinner where they all have food poisoning. I feel like, I don't know. I think it's easier than sinking the Titanic. I don't think that's, it could be, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But,
Yes, several of whom, including this guy, that guy, and this person, were allegedly opposed to the creation of a U.S. central bank.
John Jacob Astor, Benjamin
Jacob
Guggenheim,
Schmidt.
and Isidore Straus were opposing it. And J.P. Morgan
arranged to have the men board the ship and then sink it to eliminate them. I do feel like that is a complicated thing to arrange.
Yeah. And I think that's more complicated than also like why does it have to look like an accident? You just need them dead. You don't need it to look like it's an accident.
Maybe you do. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not JP Morgan. I don't know what was going through his head when he killed
As
all
we
those
talked about
Titanic
this,
people.
I've seen a lot of James Bond films. Trust me.
There's different ways to do it.
You have to remember this is way back then too. Yeah. This is what 19. Well,
yeah, it was way before. It was way before spies, secret operatives, and
1911.
Guns. Way before that.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
My little girl is being a little baby right now.
Well, she's just trying to let you know that we've been here for a minute, and it's probably time to wrap up pretty soon. Which my dog does for me too. Like whenever I'm stagnant for too long or I'm at my desk, she'll come up and be like, "Yo, you've been sitting there for a minute. You might need to take a walk." Just looking out for you, that kind of thing. Well, cool.
Very sweet.
I hope you do write up about the Titanic and the conspiracy layer. I will throw however much energy I have left whenever I read it. I'll throw that on there, and I'll tip you out with matter as well.
I'll write up about how bad the movie is.
Dude, put that shit in the movies layer. You got to compete with my private snafu post.
Okay. I'll see
and
what
it's
I can
good
do.
to have like a little, I don't want to say something negative, but a little criticism, a movie critic.
Constructive criticism. If you're
yeah.
going to make a Titanic movie, don't do it like this.
Yeah.
Just as you know, advice for filmmakers.
I want to say also that there's Titanic 2. There's a movie called Titanic 2.
I feel like I heard that, but I didn't know if it was a joke.
It's about a ship called Titanic 2.
Titanic 2.
And in the trailer, they go, it's like history's repeating itself. Like, can we get a little bit more on the nose with what's going on here?
You know what, though? That is a really good representation of how sequels tend to go a lot of times. They're like, oh, you know what? This one made a lot of money. What if we do the same thing? We can make more money. And it's not as good, even if the first one wasn't as good as you say. But, the sequels tend to not be as good. And I think that's a lot of the reason. It's a money grab.
Also, other thing I'm pissed off about. Okay, so in the movie, Jack gets accused of stealing like the diamond and stuff, and Rose just lets him get locked up and chained away. Just don't do that. Just be like, yo, that didn't happen. Like, just leave.
Just say it. No, he didn't steal it. It's right here, bro.
Or no, like it was like they put it in his pocket and like made it seem like it was him. Like she could have just been like, "Look, I'm leaving you. Jack and I are going. You got your shit back. Let's just divorce each other." Like, why'd you wait? Like, if you would have just
probably because you couldn't as easily divorce your husband back then, and that wasn't.
They weren't
really
married.
Thing.
They were just dating.
Well, why did you just suggest she gets divorced if they weren't married?
People divorce each other not in the
All right. Because they were at sea on a boat, which has implications. I've been told.
She can stay in his bunk. It's not like she's like. There's so many other ways.
She wouldn't say no because of the implication.
There's so many other ways for him to.
I don't know if you've seen that episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but there's like a whole.
I'll have to rewatch
there's a whole episode about.
Dave's
boats.
in his head with his memories, and we're not there.
Trying to excavate from the half dozen or maybe 12 episodes I've seen of that show. Yeah,
I did the same thing, but it's mostly Community references.
Never seen it. Yeah,
you've never seen the show?
Never seen Community. Never seen Parks and Rec. Never seen. I did see 30 Rock, which was fantastic. Saw some of The Office. Yeah, some of The Office. Thought it was great. Didn't binge it. Haven't seen them all, but I appreciate it. I understand.
Okay.
But no, I hear Community is great. I get that reaction that you just gave me whenever I say I never watched I barely even know what Community is. They're like, you haven't fucking seen it, bro? What are you talking about?
It's
How are you
okay.
alive right now?
Just wait for my plug. We'll be good.
Yeah. All right. That sounds good. That sounds good. Plugs sound good. So let's give those now, and let's wrap up this episode 54 of Coffee
dog's so
with
cute.
Den.
Yeah.
And I want to
she's the
say,
sweetest.
actually, before we do that, let's do one more thing. Because I didn't properly. Let's go here and let's Control F and type in coffee because we don't have a good enough search feature that I Am for I Am wants us to have. So you just got to do it manually and go find the episode that we're on. And Jacob Wayne, on I guess the last IoT episode of World Blockchain, I said something about how this show started out as me just like, here's what Den is, here's what it looks like, here's how you use it. And it has evolved into literally just a coffee meetup with some friends that happen to have a Den account where we acknowledge that, yes, Den exists, and we talk about whatever we want, which I love. I like having coffee with friends, so I think we'll just keep it like that. So with that, he came up with a couple of taglines for us. Coffee with Den, casual. Oh, yeah, I said this at the beginning of the show, didn't I? Damn it. I thought I didn't. Anyway, I'll say it again. Casual conversations with your average cup of Joe. So maybe we should come up with a tagline. I'll put it on the intro video. But thanks for that, Jacob Wayne.
I got it. You know what we should do?
Yeah?
I got it, because this is a community thing, right? One of my favorite things is on the show Comedy Bang Bang.
Yes, I do know that show. Yeah.
People pitch. If you know Comedy Bang Bang,
Fucking A.
Community or Parks and Rec or whatever.
Are they related? Or Bang Bang is just obscure?
Yeah, that's obscure.
Yeah, and he has like the fake name at the beginning of every episode.
The community will pitch taglines for the show. But I think every week we should just have people pitch taglines for the show.
A new tagline. Yeah.
And then
there should be a DAO for different taglines for the show.
You talk about your commentary has to play into the tagline that the community chose for that.
Interesting. Yeah.
If it's a good one.
Okay. If it's
like the theme kind of thing.
Yeah, we could come up here. Here's what we could do is we could come up here and do a little governance issue thing and be like, what's our tagline supposed to be? Somebody said this. Somebody else said that. Jacob Wayne was like, it should be this. And then people can vote on it.
Well, I think people should be able to add their own. Like, it shouldn't be, you know what I mean? Like, it should be more like,
and then you say like,
here's what
add your own.
Do like a weekly post and they could add it in the replies. Yeah. They could.
Yeah. I'll have to smith that up a little bit. Add it in the replies. That's how we do World Blockchain is we do a post every month. People add their topics as a reply to that post. And then the top 13 get put into one of these GIs because 13 is the max number of entries you can have. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I'll set that up. That sounds good. I like it.
And then if we find one that we really like, we can keep it for a while until it gets voted out or sick of it or something. I'm in New Jersey, so we won't be able to be here. Great.
How I look at it is if we don't start chewing on the hard topics at hand, the world will never be ready for the truth and the masses will never have the eyes to see. Yeah, I'm going to hop in here and I'll reply to that. Thanks for the
I have a theory on that,
yeah.
Or I have a comment on that. The masses that follow will always follow. And so we only need the 3 to 5% to stand up and do the right thing because the followers will always follow.
That could be. I mean, there's definitely we got to figure out how to coexist with a bunch of different types of personalities in the world without destroying ourselves. That's the real trick to humanity, right? Is we're all freaking different with freaking different ideologies and beliefs and preferences and all kinds of stuff. And all those different types of beautiful people exist. If we could just live together without the whole destroying the world and each other thing, that would be fantastic. That would be awesome.
And I figured out how we do it.
Or we colonize Mars so that there's something, besides just Earth. If we're going to kill Earth, maybe we should probably populate something else just as a hedge. Just a hedge, just in case, so that human DNA gets to start over there, just in case.
Yeah. And then those 3 to 5% every 6 months have to have breakfast with my mother for a few hours.
That's right.
and then if they pass, they get to keep their money. If they don't, it gets put back into the world.
And all their money has to be kept in Bitcoin so that everyone can see it.
Yeah. So
There it
there's no
Transparency.
transparency is key. If there's transparency, there won't be wild speculation where people tear themselves apart because no, it's like this and no, it's like that. Like, let us know that you didn't want those people to live on the Titanic and that's why you sunk it. So we can all just know about it. And they'll be like, oh man, that's fucked up. But
while you're in office, all of your funds have to be kept in Bitcoin.
I love that idea. I love the idea of like Bitcoin for the state and Monero, for example,
For the people.
people, so that the people can transact in privacy without being watched and the government cannot.
Yeah,
That
that
seems
is how it
interesting.
should be. Instead of the reverse, where people every $600 or more transaction on
Yeah,
is
right. Like I
subject
literally
to the
want to
IRS.
be able, like if we all operated on Monero and I atomic swapped into Bitcoin to pay my taxes, which is a thing that already exists today that you could do, that would work.
Or
You know,
you could just all
and
use
then you can't see
Litecoin, and
my
then you
account
could
balance.
use MWeb when you want privacy.
Yeah, that's
or
fine
use
too.
regular Litecoin for
Yeah. I love Monero, but it can be anything that works well. That's
transactions.
what it can be. Yeah.
I think we should all just actually move to using Swift coin.
Yeah.
It's a coin that I created.
T-Swift or Die coin.
Yeah, and basically every time you mint, I get a coin as well.
There's a lot of projects like that.
Mhm. Yeah. Are you hanging out with Sam?
See,
Hanging out with Sam Bankman-Fried over there. Yeah. Get a Sam coins.
I know what I'm doing
Yeah.
for me.
There you go. Yeah.
Look
And
at
people that
got
are
it.
followers that just want someone to lead them around, follow me. Use my coin.
Yeah.
Every time you use it, I get paid. Brought to you by
Yeah.
Carl Jr.
It's
Mhm.
great. And then I take those coins and then pay out, and then that goes into
No, then you loan them out.
no. They get paid out to as the universal basic income. Okay, but every time I pay out that, I get 2 coins.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One for you, one for me. 2 for
Yeah.
you, 1, 2 for me. 3 for
Mhm.
you, 1, 2, 3 for me. It's
Mhm.
fair. It's fair.
Yeah.
A lot of counting.
I think you're onto something, John. Write up your proposal in the cryptocurrency layer. We'll see who wants to buy in. Add liquidity between Matter and Swift tokens so that our denizens can buy Swift with Matter.
Got it.
Yeah, do all the things. And let's get out of here. Reminders are just that there is a Den.DAO meeting tomorrow afternoon. We didn't do one last week. We'll do one tomorrow afternoon. Or did we do one last week? Regardless, we'll do one tomorrow afternoon. And then World Blockchain Roundtable tomorrow is on blockchain architecture. And for somebody like me, I hope there's some good questions in there because I love nerding out on blockchain architecture.
If you need somebody
stuff
to
like that.
come on and explain Swift coin, I can do that for you.
Yeah. I mean, explain the architecture of how that works. Yeah.
Outside of that, I can't help.
All right. Well, good to know.
There you go.
So go through questions in that. That's over in the World Blockchain layer. But that's all I got. And I think we've talked ourselves out. Probably. John, do you want to what did you say? You said you had something for plugs
So
at the end.
I'd like to plug Community, the TV show.
Okay.
It's the greatest show of all time. If you watch it and you don't like it, watch it again because you're wrong. And I think that if you want to be on Coffee with Den or host it, a requirement should be you have to watch Community if your name is Dave. I think that should
All right.
be the requirement.
Well, you know what? We are a DAO. You could propose that officially with your Coffee with Den tokens. And if it passes, I'm out until I watch it.
Yeah, but how much of this layer do you own?
Oh, no, I did it fairly. I own.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You
I
don't own
only
a controlling
have
interest?
let me see. I am the top one, but followed by Gravity Crab, T Swift or Die, I Am for I Am, Jacob Wayne. That's the top holders, and I don't have substantially. I gave myself one for every time I hosted.
Okay.
So yeah, like theoretically, that could work. That could pass.
Okay, let's see. I'm telling you, you gotta watch the show. Greatest show ever invented. Dan Harmon, the creator of it, literally created the story structure that is used universally, basically now throughout television. Go watch it. It's really great.
So it has legacy to it like that too.
What do you mean?
Like the structure of the show has been copied and reused because it works so well.
No. It's more like, what's his name again? Do you know who it is? I don't remember. It's fine. There was a guy who wrote all this stuff about like the hero's journey. And it's really, really long and convoluted and crazy. He simplified it and basically goes like, this is the story structure of like any good movie that you watch or any story about.
I've heard that
hero.
before, the hero's journey thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the story circle is what he created, is the simplified version of that used for television.
Gotcha.
It's basically what Star Wars uses. Anything that you watch is basically can fit into that story structure.
Okay. Well, now I'm sold.
Amazing.
Because I like art. I like art now, as I said.
Yeah.
So I got to catch up.
Donald Glover is in it. Chevy Chase is in it.
I've heard
Donald
of him.
Glover. You don't know who that is?
Donald Glover? No. I mean, I've heard the name. I don't know.
Childish Gambino, the rapper.
I know Childish Gambino. Is that the same person?
It's the same person. That's his rapper name.
Okay. I mean, I don't know Childish Gambino, but I love that Redbone song.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
So he was writing all that music on the set of Community. He walks around with a little notebook and writes down rhymes and ideas and like whatever else.
And then he went to that Wu-Tang name generator thing and got his name, and then that's
that's how he got his name.
Cool. Far out. Well, thanks. That was an excellent plug. You got me wanting to watch Community. Worked. You got to follow that, Lisa. What are you going to plug that's that exciting? What do you got for us?
I had a show with Big Swear on Monday, and we talked about FTX and the Tether connection with Alameda and all of that. That was pretty exciting.
That is interesting. I'll have to watch that.
Yeah,
I saw your installment 3 of the Veridao interview as well. I watched
our
that.
amicus, unpacking the amicus on Veridao was a great interview, and then just before that on the Veridao channel we had an interview with Nick Morgan from ICANN, and Reggie came on that one, and they were talking about the whole SEC versus Ripple case, but then also how unfair the SEC swats, like how they gave disproportionate punishment to him, to library, how they just try to destroy the companies that would be market disruptors, versus
nip them in the bud.
Like when JP Morgan, destroys, manipulates silver markets, they get a swat on the hand, something like that. And like what they did to Kim Kardashian,
rules for thee, but not for me sort of thing. Yeah. I hate that shit.
Versus destroy Reggie financially,
Yeah. I do appreciate Reggie's input and seeing him get fired up too. Cause yeah. Thanks for putting those together and stuff. I'm interrupting you.
No.
Continue the plug.
Good. Yeah. So lots of good stuff with that, and lots more coming this week. I've got a few other great shows. I also have my friend that's she's here's some little woo woo. I wouldn't say she's psychic. She has guides that talk to her about cryptocurrency stuff.
Interesting.
So she's doing a show with me later this week.
Okay.
I don't know what layer that would go in.
Yeah, I don't know. Those things are interesting to me because I see them as like your subconscious does hold information. And if it comes to you in the form of voices talking to in your head, fine. I still want to hear it. Like, what is your subdued intelligence trying to get?
Because I don't know if it's a dream. It's a kind of a dream state. She's even said that it's like described it as aliens. It's very interesting.
That sounds like a DMT trip.
But her accuracy rate is like over 90%.
No shit.
Seriously, it's insane. Yeah. So
that is interesting.
It's very interesting.
You sold me too. I'll have to watch that. That's coming up soon.
Yes, yeah. We're gonna do a show later today on my Patreon.
Okay. Damn,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
it'll
have
be
to.
interesting.
I'm gonna have to put my money where my mouth is and go join your Patreon or something so I can see that. I guess. Cool.
Yeah,
Cool. Well, thank
good
you.
stuff.
Awesome. I'll plug World Blockchain Roundtable. Go watch it tomorrow. We're talking about blockchain architecture. And you know what else? I want to plug. I'm gonna plug Gary Gensler. Pay attention to him. He's worth paying attention to. But that's all I got. I'll actually replay his little 1.5 minute tutorial on how to do business in the US and get away with it on our way out here. So thanks. Everybody have a good day. I'll see you around. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
And by the way, just replacing one central monopolist with another central monopolist, a lot of commercial banks aren't terribly excited about that. Maybe you're going to have to give some ownership. Maybe you'll have to give 50% of your ownership to the 20 banks that are now, part of this. I mean, there are other ways to build incentive systems. Maybe you put a native token in there, and you give them the native token. So there may be other incentive ways to beat the current monopolist. But I, having been around commercial banks for a long time, they really are looking for ways to replace their aggregators in their back office, whether it's clearing, settlement, exchanges, credit agencies. But they are deeply understanding, because they are pretty ambitious and very good at making money as well. They deeply understand that every idea that's pitched to them is somebody who currently is small but wants to get big and gain market power. So they're also always thinking about how to ensure that there's a check to slow down your startup from gaining market power 5, 10, and 15 years from now. They don't want you to be the next clearinghouse like the Chicago Mercantile Exchange or Intercontinental Exchange. They don't want you to be the next central node of market power. So you might share some of that with them, or you might find an incentive system.
Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best.
Adaptable, all capital, label radical yet rational. Adaptable approach is palpable if this animal is fallible, but that conclusion is laughable. So with for all detachable from the mandible.